On November 17th, Apple quietly removed all ratings and reviews from their online store with no official justification as to why, and this left many people wondering what Apple's motivation was. After all, about 90% of consumers read reviews before buying a product online, and considering the Apple Store offers exclusive items, it can be difficult to find the relevant information customers need to make the right buying decision. So in this video, I'm going to share some interesting discoveries I made while investigating this topic and help solve the mystery behind Apple's decision to remove reviews from their website. This is Greg with Apple Explained, and I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. If you want to help decide which topics I cover, make sure you're subscribed, and voting polls like this one will show up in your mobile activity feed. Now, I want to start this video by emphasizing how unusual it is for an e-commerce store to not allow user reviews. Virtually every online marketplace has them. Amazon, eBay, Etsy, B&H, Micro Center, even small Shopify stores offer customer reviews. And although they've been the source of some controversy for some websites like Amazon, who used to allow paid reviews, allowing for honest user reviews has pretty much become standard business practice in the world of e-commerce, and there's data to explain why. Not only do most people read reviews before buying a product online, but simply allowing for reviews on your website boosts sales by 18%. It doesn't matter how many are negative or positive, the simple act of demonstrating transparency and honesty builds trust with customers and makes them more likely to purchase your product. And things get even better if most of the reviews on your store are positive, with customers trusting those comments 12 times more than the product description from the manufacturer. So considering how many benefits there are to allowing reviews on an online store, why would Apple suddenly remove them? Well, there's one reason I thought of right away, and it's something many of you may be familiar with if you've followed Apple for a while. When a new product is released, there's usually some controversy surrounding it for one reason or another. With the MacBook Air, it was the removal of the CD drive, with the iPhone 7, it was the removal of the headphone jack, and with the MacBook Pro, it was the removal of all other ports except USB-C. And with each of these releases, customers express their frustration in various ways, by writing articles, contacting Apple directly through support, posting on social media, or starting threads on the internet. But another common way of complaining was through reviews on Apple's website, and it usually went something like this. Apple would release a product like the MacBook in 2015, which opted for USB-C charging instead of MagSafe. A certain percentage of customers would be upset about that decision and leave reviews for something like this USB-C charging cable, since you couldn't leave reviews on anything except for accessories. Here's a good example that I managed to find on an archived web page with Wayback Machine. MagSafe was a part of what made Apple computers feel so premium, quick on and off, reversible, and doesn't take your computer with it if you trip over it. Now you need a bulky magnetic USB-C aftermarket dongle to recreate the functionality of what was one of my favorite MacBook features. So that review talked about Apple's old MagSafe charging cable and mentioned third-party magnets you could add to USB-C cables to recreate MagSafe, but it said nothing about the USB-C cable itself, like how it worked or how reliable it was. And that's a good reason for Apple to remove reviews from their website, since there were so many of these so-called reviews that don't actually help customers make informed buying decisions. Instead, they just complain about design decisions Apple made on an unrelated product. But there's another side to the story, which I'll explain right after I plug my new website. If you guys haven't noticed, I do have a website that directs visitors to my YouTube channel and social media accounts, and although it isn't full of content, it does have a very important purpose. It allowed me to buy the appleexplain.com domain before anyone else, and therefore claim a custom email address, info@appleexplain.com. And I was able to claim my domain name, build my website, and create a custom email address all with the same service, and that is Squarespace. I've been using Squarespace for over a year now after switching between other services, and I'm really happy with what they have to offer. Squarespace had the highest number of website templates to choose from, and they're all optimized for mobile, so I didn't have to worry about doing any extra work for that. And when I wanted to sell a merch product, I was able to add an e-commerce store to my site without starting from scratch. Plus, the payment processor was built in, and I could print shipping labels straight from Squarespace as well. When I say it's an all-in-one platform, I really mean it. And you can get all this for cheaper than you might think, especially if you use the link squarespace.com/appleexplained, since you'll get 10% off your first purchase. You can find that link in the description. Alright, so now for the other side of the story. Although many meaningless one-star reviews litter the product pages of Apple's online store, there are also many legitimate reviews that bring important information to our attention, some of them positive and some negative. Let's start with the negative. This review left on the same USB-C cable I mentioned earlier said, "I really want to love USB-C. It's such a versatile connector, truly a technical marvel. But it's shameful that this cable only supports USB 2.0 data speeds and that it's not included with the purchase of a USB-C charger." This review is very helpful to customers since it details the product's limitations, something that Apple doesn't mention in the product information section, as well as making it clear that power adapters and charging cables are no longer sold together, which had been the case with previous generations of MacBooks when their cables were actually attached to their chargers. And a good example of a positive review would be this for the same USB-C cable as the previous review. This one says, "This cable is solid. They redid the jacket of the cable, so I suspect we'll see a lot less peeling and fraying like old MagSafe. The cable supports USB devices and 100-watt USB-C PD. This is a huge deal for a $20 cable. This cable is one of the few things Apple priced lower than the value it delivers. The cable is also already the max length supported by USB-C PD." By reading that review, we found out that Apple potentially made the cable more fray resistant and that it supports a much higher watt speed than the average USB-C cable. With that extra information, which Apple doesn't mention on the product page, customers might be more likely to buy the product. So overall, it appears that it'd be beneficial for Apple to keep reviews on their website, especially when most customers ignore irrelevant one-star reviews anyway. But then I stumbled upon this video by F-Stoppers called "Apple Fanboys, Where Is Your God Now?" And despite the hostile title, it included some great information. It opens by saying that the entire class of USB-C technology, including USB-C 3.1, 3.2, Gen 2, and Thunderbolt 3, are all inherently unreliable. He also makes it clear that this isn't just an Apple problem, but an issue with any device with USB-C ports. The difference is that Apple's MacBooks offer USB-C exclusively, whereas most other notebooks have USB-C in addition to USB-A, HDMI, and other ports. That also means MacBook users are forced to use dongles and adapters, which tend to amplify the unreliable nature of USB-C. Now, what does all this have to do with reviews? Well, it turns out that many customers had serious problems with Apple USB-C adapters, and they left countless negative reviews on Apple's website detailing their experience. Here are some examples I pulled from the F-Stoppers video. Apple's USB-C to USB adapter had 2.5 stars and featured reviews like this. "Works when I plug my USB receiver for an external mouse, will not read a USB flash drive, so pretty useless for any type of data transfer. Unfortunately, won't work with USB 3.0, but works very well with USB 2.0. This USB-C to USB adapter can't even read my USB 2.0 flash drive." Now, there are dozens of these reviews, and I recommend watching F-Stoppers' video if you want to see more of them, but it reveals the fundamental flaw of USB-C. It's responsible for doing so much, it often doesn't do everything successfully. I've actually had that issue myself when connecting my MacBook Pro to an external TV with Apple's digital AV multi-port adapter. Some ports deliver the HDMI video out, while others don't, and it seems to change on a daily basis. But there were more adapters on Apple's website that had similar reviews. Here are what some people had to say about the Thunderbolt 3 USB-C to Thunderbolt 2 adapter. Problems with chained displays waking up from sleep and restarting. Similar to most reviewers, I too have been plagued with problems. As a bidirectional adapter, it can also connect new Thunderbolt 3 devices to a Mac with a Thunderbolt or Thunderbolt 2 port and macOS Sierra, except it doesn't. Here are more reviews about their USB-C to SD card reader. "Didn't work. The adapter never worked for me. I'll have to take it in for an appointment and hopefully get a replacement that works. does not work with iPad Pro 3rd Gen, does not work most of the time, will not mount 90% of the time, and when it does decide to mount, it takes several minutes. So it's undeniable that Apple has a problem on their hands by going all in on USB-C without ensuring the technology's reliability. And again, this problem has only been magnified with the use of adapters that may or may not work as advertised. But here's the part that surprised me the most. This F-Stoppers video, which was the first I found to reveal Apple's adapter problems to a wide audience, was published on November 16th, one day before Apple removed all reviews from their website. Now, could this have been a coincidence? Of course. But could it have also been Apple doing damage control to try and prevent this information from spreading even further? Yes, absolutely. And the most revealing aspect of this whole ordeal is that Apple has always received irrelevant one-star reviews on their accessories for as long as I can remember. But only recently have people been leaving a new type of review that exposes their adapters as unreliable and exposes Apple of false advertising. And I believe that's the phenomenon that motivated Apple to remove reviews from their website altogether, instead of doing the right thing, which would be at least acknowledging the problem and committing to solve the issues in future product updates or with new, more reliable adapters. Alright guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.